Social media is a big part of everyone's life nowadays. There's so much we need to learn now that we are dealing with social media. There's going to be problems that we're going to have to overcome. Anytime something's been around, we're going to figure out how to work it and to work with any issues that arise from it. I don't know if you've dealt with any problems with social media or if you're truly enjoying it and having a good time with it. But today I have a guest who is going to share, and I think we can learn from her story, learn a lot from it. So this is Parents Make a Difference, and I'm your host, JosiePV. I'd like to welcome Sandra Sharpe. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you, Josie. It's so good to be here, and I want to thank you so much for inviting me to share my story. And this story actually goes back to 2008. So when we think about social media and some of the issues, we really think about them in the present and as they are now. But the story I'm going to tell you happened back in 2008 when Facebook was just 4 years old. And my daughter was 15 years old and in high school. And my daughter was a very confident young girl, really going through that adolescent transition from girl into young woman. I was raised by I like to call her a social justice feminist. So I had a lot of confidence growing up, and I felt like I had instilled that in my own daughter. She certainly was outwardly confident, and she was on Facebook in high school, had lots of friends, outgoing young woman, and she posted innocently a picture of her and her friends in the summer swimming at Wasaga Beach. Mm-hmm. And somebody from her high school thought that it would be funny to say something, make a cruel comment about her body. And she went further when she got generated some comments back about it, egging her on. So she posted something over top of the picture, a very cruel comment, and it went viral.
Wow.
And it was interesting as a parent. Yeah, like as a parent, it was interesting because I always thought that my daughter, was just rock solid and had a lot of confidence, and that there was nothing that was going to be able to shake that. But I learned pretty quickly that even the best of us, when we're faced with that kind of, I would say, humiliation, and at a young age, it was really hard. She pretty much in that moment lost her confidence, and certainly looked at her body in a very different way.
I'm sure anyone who's a parent could empathize and could just feel your pain. I know I did when I heard the story. I could just, feel it, truly feel it, because we truly do feel the pain our kids go through.
Yeah, and I wish I could say that there weren't hundreds and thousands of other people that go through this, but there are. Mm-hmm. So our story kind of went in that I spent a lot of time with my daughter doing some positive reinforcement, looking at our life, our relationships, our family, her friends, and really kind of pointing out that we're all different, and we're all built differently, and really trying to help her understand that this might have been coming from a place of someone else not having a great body image. And the other piece was we went to the school. I as a parent went to the school because I was concerned about this, and again, just not really understanding the power of social media myself, maybe a little naive in those days, back in those days. The school took action. They used their anti-bullying policy, and they applied it in this case, which was really interesting because I don't think that had been tested before back in 2008. But a I'd say a very responsible principal, took it very seriously and applied the anti-bullying policy, and the student was disciplined. And I think that helped. I think it helped her. At least she told me it helped her. So that
Yes,
was interesting.
that was good. I'm in the teaching profession, and I am teaching at the present moment still. And
Right.
I think one important thing, one important message that was sent there is that you are of value. You are important. And taking a stand is saying that, right?
Mhm. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. And it gave her faith, I think, in the institution that was there. Um, for her, it was support. She got support at home. She got support, from the principal at school, and I think that was really key and important. And we got beyond it, but not without a lot of conversation. I know a lot of hurt on her end. Um, she is very committed to a healthy lifestyle. She worked out all the time back in those days. She's got a bit of a healthier balance now, but yeah, I know it was there in the back of her mind for a long time.
You said something interesting. You said that I wonder what that other person is going through, because it's a very important to know that the person who is the bullier is sometimes they're like that for different reasons. It could be they're modeling what they see in their household, and sometimes it's because they're in so much pain. And I know you and I agree on this, that hurt people hurt people. And so to understand,
Absolutely.
to take that step back to say, you know what, they're doing it from a place of pain, and
Yeah.
it gives them a different perspective, but it doesn't necessarily make it go away, that pain that she's feeling. But the conversation, I think it sounds like that's what made a huge difference, keeping the conversation going until you can get to that
Right.
other side, right?
That's it.
How
Exactly.
did you encourage
Exactly.
yourself
Yeah.
to keep going? Because you probably are feeling, oh my goodness, Emma, when is she gonna start to realize that she is beautiful the way she is? And like, what pushed you to keep going and keep going until you got to a better place to encourage her?
Yeah.
Keep fighting.
Yeah. Great
It's a
question.
fight, right? It's a fight.
Yeah, yeah. I was on my own for 11 years with my two children, and I was, really the only parent for so long that I knew, if not me, who. So I had to keep at it with her. And yeah, I just, probably my mother's voice, honestly, and in my head. And I don't have my mother anymore, but her voice is always in my head. Just making sure that my mom was never one of those parents who would say, this will pass, I'll just leave them alone and this will pass. She just kept inserting herself in our lives. Even if she couldn't change the course of what we were doing, she would always keep the conversation open, always wanting, to talk about things like drugs and drinking and, sex and all of those things. That was really important to her.
Mhm.
And so I learned from her that I'm not going to just let this go and she'll figure it out, because she's 15. How do you
Yes.
figure it out at 15? So we needed to keep having that conversation and keep looking around and looking at books and looking at movies and trying to help her, work through some of those body image issues that cropped up from this experience.
Yes, and from your story, I that's what that resonated with me, was that just keep the conversation going. Just keep communicating, keep sharing, and it sounds like you brought positive images of people who she could resonate with, to say, look at this person here and how beautiful. those were thoughts that came to my mind as you were sharing the story. And this is not just for Facebook. It could be for any kind of social media. My son's on TikTok a lot, and that's an issue that I need to work with him. I've got to keep the conversation going, or they're gaming online, and then you'll have people who are negative and are tearing them down because they're winning and the other person doesn't know how to lose, or vice versa. And I think keeping that conversation is so critical, because social media is not going to go away. You had an interesting comment. You had said something about the genie. Can you share that?
Oh yeah. We can't put the genie back in the bottle on this one. So, and I really feel a lot of empathy for parents today. My daughter's now a successful, confident 28-year-old woman, but I imagine today, with how it's expanded, and that it's used for radicalization, that it's used for hate speech and politicizing people, which it wasn't maybe way back then. It was more used as a more of a sharing and a connection type of tool. So parents today, more important than ever to really talk to your kids about the boundaries and about the risks, because there are big risks out there. And again, I don't envy parents today having to deal with all of that. But I do think that more people time and less screen time needs to be something that families need to commit to and have that conversation about. I think that's very important.
And we both watched a movie that kind of discussed that social dilemma. And you want to share anything about your thoughts, what you picked up from that movie?
So I watched the movie The Social Dilemma, and my daughter watched it as well. We didn't watch it together. And it triggered the memory from way back then. And when I wrote a speech that you heard, I wrote it after watching that movie, because the memory was brought back up and kind of inspired me to share that story. Of course, I asked my daughter if I could share it, and she gave me, of course, her permission. But it was really powerful to me. And what was really interesting to me, at the end of that movie, they asked the architects of all of those social media programs and the apps and all of the things that are being used daily in our lives, how much they allow their children or how much they engage in social media. And they said little to none. And I thought that was pretty profound, in terms of, because they knew, they know the dangers so well.
And for people who don't know what that movie's about, it's on Netflix. If you can give just a little summary of the movie.
Yeah, it was a documentary, and it was former programmers and coders that developed Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and they came on to talk about that. It was their intention to create an environment where they could sell ad space for profit. So people's preferences, people's likes, their dislikes, they're all tracked and they're all measured. And that information is valuable data for companies that want our business. So these companies that have these social media sites, they are information, and our preferences, everything about us is for sale, for profit. So that when you get a pop-up on your phone about something you just talked about, that's not coincidence, that's not an accident, that's a program doing its job. And that's frightening to me.
Yeah, so I mean, I know they're doing it to help us, to help our lives. I understand that. But it's interesting when you said that the people who were talking on that show that worked for these companies are not wanting their kids on it very much, or themselves. They would try to decrease their time. And so I think that's why this conversation has to keep going, so that we can understand how is it affecting us and what do we need to do in our lives so that we have more of a balance, right? And then especially when there's situations like yours where it was used in a way to hurt, that I think we need to have this conversation. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do? Because we can't stop what people say, but what we have power over is ourselves and what we do in our family unit. And so as I was reflecting on your story, I thought, so what can I do? And I thought, well, you know, one important thing that I can do is that in my own household, to make sure that there's no bullying going on. So if I hear a child degrading another child, I have 5 children, so I've got a few to work with there. I've been blessed.
Wow.
And if I hear one degrading another one and saying, you know what, you could still say what you need to say if you're angry, but you do not need to use any name calling. And that is something that I've done within the years. But your story reminded me that I have to take more action, because it's easy to just slip out a word that can be insensitive, right? Because what they learn in the household, they're going to take outside. It's like someone's upsetting you, you can say, that's very insensitive, you made me very upset, but you don't need to put a name call to it. Or you don't need to degrade the person in order to get your point across. And so it could start in the home. We only have power over ourselves. It can start with us. What are we saying? Evaluating how we're talking, because, you know, we're all human. Maybe we're using it. Maybe we're using words that would be inappropriate if used outside or used on social media, because that's what the children are hearing and that's what they're going to be a reflection of. And so we do have power with what we do. And so
even this, I mean, even you bringing this conversation to the forefront and using your influence and your channels to share stories like this and connecting with parents, I think that's also part of the solution. And that's, even though we're using the same mechanisms, you almost have to, so that you can have that balance and counter that other negative side. So that's another thing that I think is really great, is to share some of the lessons and some of the good, and counter it and balance it, which is another great tool.
Absolutely. So it reminds me, just a thought came to mind. It's like money. They say, oh, money is evil. No, it's what you do with it. There's people who are using money to control, for power, and there's people who are using it to help. They're giving to charity. They're creating charities. They're using it. It's how we use it, and how we use media is going to make a difference. And we can use it to share, to enjoy time with our family members that live far away. We can use it in such a positive way, but keeping the discussion going, keeping the conversation going, so that we figure out the balance as we're learning about it more and seeing the outcome of it. So it's great to hear your story. It really resonated with me, and I felt the pain, because as a parent, we are fighting for our kids. We want a great life for them, and anyone that hurts them hurts us. And so right. It's great that you kept fighting and that you were persistent, because I'm sure it was not an overnight fix. Right?
Oh, no, it was a long time. Yeah.
And if you can share with the audience how your daughter is doing today, and some of the things you'd want us to know because of what she had gone through.
Today, she is a very confident young woman. She traveled on her own when she was in her mid-20s to other places around the world, and Morocco and Spain and Italy. And
that takes confidence in itself. Yes.
Very, very confident. Yeah, she did 2 years at college. She's working in her field. She's successful managing COVID. She's going to be married by the end of this year. She has healthy relationships, but the best part is that she has a healthy relationship in herself, with herself. And she's just a good person, a good person, kind, loving, caring, and and she loves herself. And that's as a mother, that's the best part for me.
Well, I'm
Mhm.
sure that this experience helped her to become who she is because she had to reflect more. She had to, push those thoughts, those negative thoughts. She had to push through them, which, it sounds like it made her more resilient.
It did. It was painful for sure, but it absolutely made her more resilient, Josie. Absolutely, it did. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear the story from the other side because there's probably parents going through it now and they don't know if, they can't see the other side getting through it. But I just encourage them to just keep pushing through and just kind of remind yourself where you want to be, where you want your
Right.
child to be once they've gotten through it. And I shared with you a little bit that I too had gone through. One of my children had been bullied, and it was just
Mm.
very hard to see them through that. And then I thought at one point, because it was years of going through it, I thought, you know what, this is probably something that's going to make him very sensitive to this issue, and he'll be able to help people because he went through it. Something good's going to come out of this. But I needed to keep fighting with him, So I'm just so glad you did because it sounds like good things came out of it.
It did. It did. And I'm sure with you as his mother, your son will get through it as well.
He did, and I'm just so proud of him. And he's such a great person, and so sensitive to other people's needs, and great heart. And there's just so many great things about him. I'm just so proud of him. But it was scary. It was scary at the time. You're thinking, how are we going to get through this? And you just
Yeah.
keep the conversation going, like you said, and keep talking and
Oh, yeah.
and just making sure that they know that you are there, and you seek help if you need to. You seek help outside the family if you need to, because as parents, we need to fight for our kids, and we need to bring resources in if we need it. Every situation's different. So I'm just
Yeah.
so glad that you shared this story because I think parents need to hear it, and need
Thank you.
to know that there is hope. There is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Agreed. You got it.
And I'd love to hear all the great successes that are happening in your daughter's life. So anytime you want to share it, we're just so happy that she's already having great success and a marriage on the way and a healthy relationship. What else can you want, right?
That's right.
We appreciate that you came to join us on Parents Make a Difference. Thank you so much.
Wonderful talking to you, Josie. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.